Hello again, my friends on YouTube. It's CD Mangake here to talk about some news in the Dragon Ball FighterZ world that has me a little bit riled up personally, but I'm sure that a couple of other individuals are also in a similar strait as I am. Apologies for my absence as well, YouTube. I've been adjusting to a new job, trying to find time to balance my own work-life needs, getting used to working in the mornings, as well as trying to keep up with the new patch of Dragon Ball FighterZ in my own training, as I think I finally settled on the team that I want to hone in this version of the game. But enough about all those things. Let's talk about the reason why you clicked on this video, and that being, what has Bandai Namco done today to get our jimmies all rustled up, if I may quote that old archaic meme? I just said two words that mean the same thing back to back. That will give you an idea of how repetitive I am. Without further ado, though, let's talk about some of the news. We finally have a date and a venue for the Dragon Ball FighterZ World Tour 2023 and 2024. We have a date and we have a venue, and that is all, surprisingly to me, taking place once again in North America. This is going to be happening at the Los Angeles Convention Center in Los Angeles, California, and this will be the weekend of January 27th through January 28th. Why is this a little bit of weird news or a bit of controversial news? That would be because this is the exact same weekend as Frosty Faustings 2024, which was announced a year ago in February. Actually, not even a year ago, but this year of 2023. Regardless, we've known about this for several months at this point, and yet Bandai Namco has scheduled the finals of their world tour during one of the largest brackets for Dragon Ball FighterZ that is active right now. It's about the third or fourth largest bracket for DBFZ. If you don't know what Frosty Faustings is, it is a Chicago-based tournament that takes place every year about the late January, early February time period, happening out usually in the Lombard of Illinois. I think it's at a new venue this year. I'm not 100% certain on that one. And to give you an idea of the scale of this event, here we have the bracket from 2023. So this was this year's bracket. I competed in this one. I was able to commentate the top 8 with Jake Ryan. Odd flex, I know, but I wanted to fit that in there. Then you see that we had about 174 entrants sign up for this. That's a lot of people that signed up for this bracket. The year before that, we saw more entrants as well at 193 total entrants. So we're close to nearly 200 people signing up for this offline bracket. This is a fairly big tournament. Now, for the LCQ that took place earlier this year in Las Vegas, there was about the maximum 256 signups. But it was a free event, and so everybody signed up, and when I could tell you when I got there, only about 75 players actually showed up for the bracket, so it's a little bit of a disappointment. Not really everybody was there to show on up, but that was what it was. So that's sort of the reality of it, right? And now we're in the situation where for North American competitors, I'm going to say North American competitors for this one because largely speaking, it feels like Frosty Faustings has not really been a big international competition. It's largely been primarily attended by American audiences with very little bit of Japanese or European or other countries' representation at this event. It feels like Combo Breaker and Evo kind of have more of that international pull currently in the FGC. Who knows, maybe that'll change going forward in the future. But for Dragon Ball FighterZ, that is not going to be the case this year, as any DBFZ player who gives a damn about Dragon Ball FighterZ competition, they're going to be attending and planning to go to the World Tour Finals. That is the event that literally is the most important event for the game itself. It's an event specifically for the game. It's an event brought to you by the developers, not the developers, but the publisher of the game, excuse me. Arc System Works developed the game. They have nothing to do with Dragon Ball FighterZ anymore. It's just Bandai Namco and their show right now. And of course, there's some reactions, I think, going on about this one, right? So like Cloud805, predominant content creator. I don't know how I was supposed to say that. Content creator, that's how. Y'all realize this venue was booked before the tour was even announced. A lot of people getting mad at the same weekend as Frosty, I get it. But acting like it was intentional, that's a stretch. I will say, Cloud805 is 100% right on this one. There's a lot of reasons to be mad. To speak from my own personal experience, I knew the dates for Frosty Faustings ahead of time. I've been able to work Frosty Faustings as a stream, like a bracket runner. I've commentated the stream several times, being on top 8 a few times as well for Dragon Ball FighterZ, and it's one of my favorite events to go to. I get to see a lot of my friends from all over the FGC there, and I've made plenty of friends at this event as well. All of a sudden now, I have to rethink if I really want to go there because I only signed up for Dragon Ball FighterZ. as someone who's trying to commentate as many games as I can, maybe trying to get a Strive shift for commentary or trying to get into Street Fighter 6, I'm trying to keep my schedule light as a commentator. But now the most important bracket for my game is in another state that very same weekend. I've already booked my flight. Not only that, I booked it on a discount with Southwest, the airline I fly with, not sponsored. Had a great deal going on for it. I knew Frosty's was coming up, so I booked a flight at half cost for Frosty Faustings. Now I'm looking at having to cancel that flight and then flying out to LA. I might not be the only one who's doing that. I know for certain my training partner, Silver Tabby, who got 7th at CEO Taku this past month ago. That would have been September. I remember my days. That was pretty fantastic. I just want to give him a shout out. I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one who might have already signed up for Frosty Faustings and is going, oh, I probably actually have to change my plans, as it were. In fact, I can literally point you to this. Shouts to Roy. He's someone that I've met. He's a very passionate Dragon Ball Fighterz player. Looks like I'm just going to have to see if I get a refund for my Frosty Faustings registration. Go to the LCQ instead. Unfortunate it's the same weekend, but it is what it is. There's players who are going to have to be canceling travel plans and readjusting those things, which that's just life. That's just adulthood. We're all adults. We can pay for a couple of different things, right? But now I have to look at the opportunity cost as well as sunk cost fallacy for all of that situation. And again, it is a little bit weird looking at everything here that this would happen when, you know, Khalil, who has organized a lot of Dragon Ball Fighterz events like the Wumpa Warriors, which he was polite enough to let me commentate a most recent event for. While I agreed that this event was likely booked months in advance, Frosty's has had their date since February, and that was before the last battle hour was even over. The last battle hour took place in March. Frosty Faustings concluded at the start of February, and we had a date for the next one. Little bit crazy. Frosty Faustings themselves, or itself, I should say, has commented as well. We tend to know our dates roughly a year out or just slightly less. We enjoy announcing next year's date of the show. Makes us feel like we have our priorities in order. I'm sure major corporations have a lengthier process for selecting dates. No way they did anything malicious. This is in response to Cloud 805. It's just bad timing. Unfortunate because both events will be fine. It's the players that have to choose and perhaps suffer a difficult decision. It's too bad. If they had chosen, even a couple of weekends later, we could have been on the tour as the final stop. I wonder if they would be willing to reconsider their date. So they're kind of pitching a little underball to Bandai Namco and said, hey, Bandai, you're kind of like the bigger corporation here. You guys got a lot of plans and wheels turning. Perhaps you could postpone this a little bit, include us in there. I don't think that's likely. Bandai Namco is a large corporation with a lot of things juggling right now. In fact, they just announced a new series, a new anime series for Dragon Ball. It's Dragon Ball Daimo. It looks like they're turning everybody into kids. It's going to be like Looney Tunes but Dragon Ball, or Rugrats but Dragon Ball. That's what everybody's memeing about on my Twitter feed anyway. I'm still calling it Twitter, by the way. Who knows what this really all means for everything? I mean, we simply know what it means. It's that there's going to be players who have a choice to make, and I can sort of break it down like this. If you are a player who's absolutely serious about competing in Dragon Ball Fighterz, you're going to LA. You're going to LA, you're going to attend that LCQ, and you're going to fight through that last chance qualifier bracket, or you've already qualified for that bracket, and now you're going to be going out to LA, and you're going to have to miss out on Frosty Faustings. If you're not as serious as Dragon Ball Fighterz, or you play multiple games other than Dragon Ball Fighterz, right? You play Dragon Ball Fighterz, but you're also playing Guilty Gear Strive, Street Fighter 6, perhaps Vampire Savior, or Third Strike, right? There's a bunch of games that you might be playing, and if Dragon Ball's not your main game, but a game that you play on the side, you're probably going to Frosty Faustings, and you're going to be having a wonderful time there. That's sort of the conundrum where it is. For me as a competitor, as well as a commentator who doesn't have any association currently with Bandai Namco, who's never had the opportunity to work for Bandai Namco, I'm sort of torn on which one I want to try and attend more. Do I want to try to reach out to Bandai Namco and say, hey, I would love to commentate here for your event. I've been a Dragon Ball Fighterz competitor and commentator for years. Here's my resume. I'd love to work with you. Or do I go to Frosty Faustings and say, hey guys, I would love to work for you for a third year in a row for Dragon Ball Fighterz, and see what other sort of commentary shifts that I can get. It's my own personal struggle in this things. But again, it just sucks because this fractures the FGC. It fractures this one event for the FGC. And really, in Bandai Namco's end line, it's not that big of a deal. It is one game out of 24 games that are happening at Frosty Faustings. So what if they steal or poach a couple of players, if you will, from Frosty Faustings and they all go to the LCQ, and the LCQ has the hyper-competitive bracket that might be a little smaller or probably even bigger at this point, while Frosty Faustings has its smallest Dragon Ball FighterZ bracket ever potentially that is also not as stacked because every, the big names, Nitro, right? Garlic Bread, who's qualified very recently. You're going to probably see Zane go to LA. I mean, for Pete's sakes, it's in the same home state. Why travel across the states when you have the biggest tournament, the most important tournament for your main game within your state? All those big names are probably going out to that LCQ out there. But, who knows? Maybe someone will look at Frosty Faustings and go, it's still winning a major. I'd love to do that, right? Like, I don't really have a big shot at the World Tour. Maybe I want to go and fight at this event that's less stacked, right? That's some of the questions that are going to be in there, right? And unfortunately, I feel like one of the narratives that could come from Frosty Faustings, potentially, is, for Dragon Ball anyway, is that, this winner of it was sort of the best of whoever didn't go to the LCQ. All the really good talent, all the really strong players went to the LCQ. So that's why this tournament was won. It kind of just makes Frosty Faustings feel a little less important. Unless the inverse happens somehow, and Dragon Ball FighterZ players say, I don't care about Bandai Namco. I've been bold, been burned out by waiting for a rollback netcode that just doesn't seem to be coming. We've been waiting for a year and a half, over a year now at this point. Still no announcement for a release date or anything like that. You know what? I'm sick of supporting Bandai. I'm just going to go play at Frosty Faustings. I like the Frosty Faustings guys, right? Imagine if a bunch of players that could have been really great talents at the LCQ all of a sudden don't go to the LCQ and they go to Frosty Faustings instead. That just sort of means that there's just less of a great story happening at the LCQ. I don't think that's going to be the case. I feel like for Dragon Ball FighterZ, everybody who really cares about Dragon Ball, the ones who are hyper competitive, they're going to that LCQ. And then, whoever doesn't go, they prioritize going to Frosty's more, either to see more people, either to be involved with different games. Dragon Ball FighterZ not their main focus, right? That's sort of where we're going to have to see things happen, right? That opportunity cost. And again, there's sort of just like plenty of other things to think about as well, right? Think about like Frosty Faustings right now. They've been publishing, not publicly any like specific numbers, but they've been doing a leaderboard, as it were, of signups since their registration opened not 2 days ago, where the day 2 leaderboard, number 1 is Street Fighter 6, all the way through it. If you look at this list, this first 14 games, Dragon Ball FighterZ isn't even on this list. Frosty Faustings is running a total of 24 games, so Dragon Ball FighterZ is in there, but it's not even the top 14 most registered. And with this news, it's likely not going to change. For a little bit of context, Street Fighter 3 Third Strike had, my friend Tabby texted me this number. It got 135 entrants last year. That's how many were there for Third Strike, and it isn't within the top 14. Now, there's no way that they hit 135 players already. So who knows where Street Fighter 3 is going to land, but I don't see Dragon Ball FighterZ getting over that number this year. I don't think it's going to be one of the most registered games. I feel like this bracket of Dragon Ball FighterZ players is going to be comparatively small. It might be the first sub 100 player bracket for Dragon Ball FighterZ at Frosty Faustings in years. And that just kind of sucks and it blows. But ultimately, Bandai Namco, do they not care about grassroots events? I wouldn't say that they don't. They've certainly been operating on their own schedule for the last little bit, making announcements a week before like EVO or CEO, right? Just almost to relieve themselves of the responsibility of having to stay there or attend in person to deliver these things while they have a bunch of other projects in the pipeline. It's a massive corporation. Dragon Ball is not their only IP. Dragon Ball FighterZ is not their only game. They're trying to produce new content. They're trying to support other games, and they're trying to coordinate with all these other divisions, right? Like Toei Animation, most but likely, to get on board and make sure that everything is being done to a certain timetable schedule. This probably was the best weekend for them ultimately to get the venue that they wanted, or to get a readily available venue at a location that they wanted, or just to fit in with their own time plans to promote the next bit of Dragon Ball content. Not Dragon Ball FighterZ content necessarily, but just Dragon Ball content in general, because don't forget, this LCQ, this World Tour Finals, is not just a Dragon Ball FighterZ tournament. There's Dragon Ball Legends there. There's the Dragon Ball Super trading card game there. And I want to say Dokkan Battle's there, but I might be crazy on that one. I feel like there's 4 games there, and I don't remember all of them because I'm a Dragon Ball FighterZ player first and foremost. My apologies. I hope somebody else can make a comment on that situation with regards to the other games. But Either way, that's sort of like the news that has come out today. I know I'm a little late addressing it. I've just gotten home from work and a couple of other obligations, and I wanted to spew my own thoughts and my own feelings on the matter. I feel like it kind of sucks that Dragon Ball FighterZ players have to make a choice between, do I go to a really cool major for my game, but then miss out on the most important tournament for Dragon Ball FighterZ of the year? Or, you know, what do I do in the nuances within there? Again, I don't think Bandai Namco has done anything malicious. I don't think that they're intentionally screwing over Frosty Faustings, because, again, Frosty Faustings will be just fine. Frosty Faustings is hosting several other events there, several other tournaments, and they're going to have far bigger brackets than Dragon Ball FighterZ. Frosty will be fine, but for Dragon Ball players, it's a tough decision to make, and perhaps a phone call and cancellations to be made if you're like me and you booked very quickly and early because you've been a Frosty Fausting regulars for some years, and the fact that I may have to miss out on that is a bit of a bummer. If you're facing these dilemmas too, I'd love to hear about it in the comment sections, my friends. I hope to be around and talking to y'all a little bit more soon. I got a couple of Dragon Ball FighterZ content videos in mind that I want to try and dive into, because I promised y'all a little bit of silly content, or maybe not silly, but just some fun content in general. Thank you all very much. I'm Mangaka. I'll see you around.